been playing it since Pro Tour Theros over a year ago.
We've got ourselves a Temple of Plenty to begin things.
It looks like a hand of 5-card hand of lands and 1 Ajani.
That's
so
better than nothing.
Better than nothing, not bad. It's got a little protection against Lightbane Zombie. Doesn't have to, you know.
Yeah, sure, that's a thing, I
blanks.
suppose. Now, Morawski, I think this is kind of tilting here. He's got a black bordered land, and then he's got 5 white bordered ones. I'd like an explanation, I think.
Patrick Sullivan would be outraged. I'm glad he's not here watching.
Look, it's okay. You can do one or the other.
Yeah.
But both is just that's putting me on tilt right now.
So let's see here. What does Boswell want to do? He's got that Ajani. Nothing else though. Does he want to lead with the Scryland to try to dig for something?
Well, it looks like he is going to do that. Going to play a Temple of Plenty. Top card is what he's going to take a look at. That's a deep sigh there. Might not be too thrilled at what he's looking at. His hand's not great, obviously, but he is on a mulligan to 5, so I don't expect it to be great. We'll just pass the turn back over to Morawski. We'll take a draw. It's another swamp. It's time for a Lightbane Zombie, I believe, and that's not going to hit. So here's a bunch of lands and an Ajani, Caller of the Pride. So Morawski's going to write down the 2 planes, the Manic Influence and the Ajani, and move forward.
Yeah, if Boswell can draw multiple Voice of Resurgence, I think that's probably the best case scenario.
There's a land, going to pass a turn back. Well, this is quite clearly an Advent of the Worm, I'd like to believe.
Nope.
Oh, all right. I like the kind of bluff here, actually.
Well, he doesn't really have any other options, right? Because if he plays a Johnny, it just dies to Lightbane.
I mean, it goes up to 5.
No,
and then it would go down to 2.
I don't think he has any targets, though. I think you
don't have to have a target. It's up to 1.
So, yeah I guess just doesn't want to bother. And Boswell loses the first game after a mulligan to 5 and no creatures drawn for 5 turns.
Look, not the best draw. Not the best draw. These things do happen. Player's going to sideboard. We're going to come back here. It is trivia time. Osip has the rules for you very quickly, and I've got your 6th-month question.
Okay, so we're going to ask, Cedric's going to ask you a question. Tweet us your answer at SCG Live, hashtag SCG Premium, and you can win 6 months of premium service.
Good luck.
Good luck
to everybody. It's going to be a real doozy. That's not true. Grand Prix Orlando, as you guys do know, coming up here in October. It's going to be a sweet tournament. A lot of people are going to be there. Looking forward to it. All the work that's gone into it from Star City Games. But the big question right now is, what is the limited format? What limited format will we be playing? The bigger question is, what is the set of the limited format that we will be playing? If you can name the set of these sealed limited format we will be playing, hashtag the answer with the hashtag of SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live. And we will announce the winner at the conclusion of our semifinal round, which looks to be going rather quickly. Mr. Boswell needs to, I think, maybe play some spells next game. What do you think?
I think it would be helpful if you got a creature on board. Yeah.
That's a start?
At least one.
That's a start. Drawing a couple of Johnny's.
Even immutable, something.
Sure, that's fine too. Just, Boswell, do something. As we're going to bring it back to the match, we're going to take a look at our sideboards here very quickly. We will start with the Boz, Short Angel of Thune, a Mistcutter Hydra, 4 Skylasher, an Advent of the Worm, 2 Gods Willing, a Setessan Tactics, 2 Ajani Steadfast, which were great last round, and then 2 copies of Hunt the Hunter. What do you like there?
I like the Advent of the Worm. That's probably going to come in, and I like the Mistcutter Hydra as well, along with the 2 Gods Willings. Mistcutter Hydra, obviously, not great against mono black, but it's another big creature that you can get into play. Obviously, there's not that many cards in his deck that he wants to cut. He needs the Charms and he needs the Banishing Lights in order to deal with Desecration Demon. A Johnny Call Their Pride, actually not that amazing in this matchup. I could see cutting those cards, despite the fact that they've been good for him in the past. I don't think it's that great in this matchup. And then maybe you cut a Sunblade Elf or maybe a Soldier of the Pantheon, honestly. But you kind of want to go, God's Willing, I think, is just really good in this matchup because, again, stopping a removal spell can be huge. It can be a tempo shift. So I like the God's Willings. I like the Advent of the Worm. Mistcutter Hydra, I'm not 100% on, but definitely Advent and the God's Willings. I'd probably just bring in those 3 for the Johnnies, to be honest.
Okay. On the other side of things, Morawski has a Pithy Needle, Bile Blight, 2 Doomblaze, 2 Pharika's Cures, 2 Erebus, God of the Dead, 3 copies of Drought and Sorrow, and then 4 copies of Duress. The easiest place to start, of course, is Doomblade.
Yeah, I think you just bring in all your removal spells short of like Pharika's Cure. Pharika's Cure is not that good. Drown and Sorrow is obviously not that amazing either. You could, if you're on the draw, I could see bringing in a couple of copies just because Boswell could get one of those draws where he draws a lot of his 1-drops and you can kind of blow him out that way. but definitely Doomblade. Doomblade and probably Bioblade as well. Doomblade, Bioblade are probably the 3 removal spells you want most. Drown and Sorrow, possibly if you're on the draw. Freakus Cure is not that impressive to me. Drown and Sorrow is not amazing either, but there is the potential to blow your opponent out. But looking at his deck is pretty well suited for this matchup. He's got the Life-Bane Zombies already in his main. Probably don't need that many, 4 copies of Great Merchant. You could probably shave a couple of copies there. And you probably don't need 4 copies of Underworld Connection as well. So you can probably shave a couple of numbers there as well. But other than that, you're not going to board out your Thoughtseizes. You don't really want to board out any of your other creatures. And then the rest of your spells are basically removal spells. So you're not boarding those out either.
Well, we will be underway here in just a bit for game number 2. Again, our other matchup on the other side of things, Lloyd Kurt, their overall #1 seed, playing Black-White mid-range, playing against Danny Jessup with Mono Black Devotion. Again, when we do have an update on that match, we'll certainly let you guys know, even though it does seem like it might favor Kurt a little bit, as the White Splash typically does help there. On the other side, we do watch right now Andrew Boswell, Jonathan Morawski, Green-White Aggro, currently down a game to Mono Black Devotion. The story of this top 8 has been there's a lot of mono black here, Black Devotion S decks. 4 of those, along with 2 mono blue decks, a green white deck, and Stephen Reed, unfortunately dispatched by Morawski, playing a very innovative Naya aggro deck. So we will see what's able to slide through here. Will it be another Black Devotion mirror in the finals, or will Boswell kind of be the good guy and take down these black decks?
And I think before the weekend, we basically were like, all right, one of 2 things is going to happen. Either the old pillars of the format are just going to dominate because people bring too many fringe decks to the format and they're just not good enough, or M15 really does shake things up, and we're going to see some new archetypes. And I think the closest thing we saw was the mono green Devotion deck that Todd Anderson was playing. That featured a lot of like Nissa green basically. That was the closest thing we saw, but obviously that didn't really make it. So Mono Black Devotion and Mono Blue were basically the story of the tournament. I think they basically just dominated everyone,
as they oftentimes do.
Yeah.
No Jund Monsters in the top 8, no Revelation decks in the top 8 as well. I didn't expect to see Revelation decks this week do particularly well, again, because they have to do some updating to their deck. They have to figure out what they have to fight against.
Yeah.
You know, since a control deck in week 1, not saying it's impossible, but it is difficult, I think, for those decks to actually do pretty well in week 1. Not a ton has changed, but I believe that enough has changed that those decks need to reconfigure a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't think this is basically an indication that Revelation decks are bad. I just think again, like you said, first week of a new format, it's hard for a reactive deck to kind of do well because you just don't know what you have to react to. You know, your strategy against a deck like Boss Red is a lot different than your strategy against a deck like Green White Aggro. So I think that week 1 is always going to be tough for control decks. But, you know, as the weeks go on, you might start to see Esper evolve and kind of adapt some of the new M15 cards and become a real contender again. Especially because it probably has a really good matchup against Mono Blue Devotion.
Boswell's going to keep his hand, as will Morawski, and we are underway in game number 2. It's a Soldier of the Pantheon to get things started. Morawski with a Swamp. Will it be a Thoughtseize? It will not be. So Boswell will untap. Time to take a draw. We'll see if he does have a green source of mana. He does have a mana confluence. It's big right now, I think, is having a 2-drop. There's a forest and there is a 2-drop.
All right,
so he's off to a great start.
Good start for Boswell. He's got a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and he dodged the Thoughtseize. So looks like Morawski has a Doomblade here, so Fleece Mainline is going to leave. But Boswell still is able to get some damage in, and I think he has a 3-drop in Smiter as well.
That play is really simple from Morawski, but it's a play that I like a lot because he knows that Boswell has God's Wounds in his sideboard, so there's no need to get tricky with your Doomblade. You're going to kill this creature anyway, just kill it.
Yeah, it's fine with being a sorcery. You know, killing a creature is still good. So Smiter comes down for Boswell, so Boswell's got the beats on. It's exactly what he needed.
Does Life-Bane Zombie hits? The answer is yes. There is a Sunblade Elf along with another copy of Loxodon on Smiter, and then a Mana Confluence.
All right, so not bad. He's going to lose his Smiter probably. Sunblade Elf can come down and threaten to pump potentially next turn, so that could be good.
And of course, Life-Bane Zombie exiles the card.
Yes.
Does not make you discard it, as there is a Sunblade Elf, a 1/1, but it will be a 2/2 because Boswell does control planes, and of course, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn for 5 mana. So a very useful 1-drop in this deck. When you're flooding, it actually does have some help, and he does have a 4th land in his hand, Mana Confluence, so there's a real chance that we do see Sunblade Elf actually go active this game.
Yeah, it's basically a pretty useful 1-drop later in the game, and it gives you an additional 2-power 1-drop in your deck. Yeah, I don't think you play 4, but
Boswell draws a card for the turn. It's a Plains. He will play that Manic Influence. He's going to fire Beautiful. I imagine he's going to get in the red zone with everybody here. That's exactly what he will do. So Life Being Zombie gets to eat something here.
Yeah, I guess you probably go after Mutavault, but yeah. So it looks like he's going to go after Soldier simply because he knows about Sunblade Elf, so it's hard to activate Mutavault and Sunblade Elf.
Yeah.
So I like that block there.
Damage just come across. Morawski's going to go down to 10. It's time to pass the turn back.
The only reason I thought Morawski might have blocked the Mutavault is simply to keep a land off the board.
Sure.
You know.
Morawski doing a little bit of math, does have copies of Desecration Demon in his hand, also a pack rat there, does have a Hero's Downfall too. So Desecration Demon is actually, I feel like a pretty good play this turn.
Desecration Demon is one of the really problematic cards for Boswell's deck. He has Celestial Charm and Banishing Light, but if you don't draw it, it basically just shuts down every one of your attackers. It's just so good. That when I was playing this deck at Proto Theros, it was a really annoying card for me because you don't have you have Celestial Charm, but you know, if you don't draw it, you just feel really silly.
I think the problem is that you have to have Celestial Charm.
Yeah.
You know, that's the kind of squeeze that they put you in. Boswell draw for the turn was a copy of Advent of the Worm. So we're going to see how aggressive he wants to get here. For example, you could sacrifice a Sunblade Elf, get it for 4, put you down to 6. Mutavault, he could activate, sacrifice that, get in for 6, put him down to 4.
I think he actually has a land in his hand,
I do too.
So if he plays the land, he can actually cast Advent of the Worm and activate Mutavault, sacking it to tap the Desecration Demon, and then attack for 6. So then he'll have an Advent of the Worm, a Lockstone Smiter, and a Sunblade Elf in play, and his opponent will be a 4.
Hard to pass that up.
Yeah, so I think, but it looks like he's just going to pass here and try to do everything in one turn.
I don't hate this line of play.
Oh, no.
I kind of like it.
Especially if Morawski doesn't know about the Advent of the Worm, and if Morawski just plays a second Desecration Demon here, that could be enough.
Yep.
If Boswell draws a land, he can actually pump and activate Mutavault. So definitely a good line there for Boswell. I like that.
I think what Boswell wants to have happen is to have Morawski actually cast another Desecration Demon. Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah, so if Boswell draws a land here, I think that should be it.
This is an Advent of the Worm.
So let's see here. Advent of the Worm, he's got a Mutavault, a Sunblade Elf, and a Loxodon Smiter. Morawski is tapped out with 2 Desecration Demons. Let's see.
Yeah, if it's a land, it would do it.
Yeah, if it's a land, it does it. Instead,
that
it's
works.
a Celestial Charm.
That works.
That works.
Activated Mutavault. Sacrifice that. Here's back for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Andrew Boswell with a timely top deck, going to get the job done. We're headed to a third and final one here.
So basically, a land or Banishing Light Celestial Charm does it there. So.
I think there are a lot of draws to get him out of that, right? There's a healthy amount of ways because
even a small creature.
Yeah, a small creature, right? Because if he draws a Voice of Resurgence, for example, play that, sacrifice Voice, sacrifice Sunblade Elf, activate Mutavault, attack you for 11.
Yeah.
So actually, a lot of draws to get himself out of the situation. I guess the bigger question is, Morawski's supposed to play the second Demon, or is he supposed to leave a Hero's Downfall?
I think you have to leave Downfall up. Yeah, so I was actually that's why I like Boswell's line, because if you basically he doesn't know about the Advent of the Worm. So if you basically just pass the turn like you didn't draw anything, you might incentivize Morawski to just play a Desecration Demon. But again, Morawski has to think about Advent of the Worm. Maybe he just missed it. But either way, though, I like Boswell's line. He basically set himself up perfectly.
It's also, I think, on that turn for Morawski, it's like it has to be Advent of the Worm, maybe that turn.
Yeah.
There is that aspect of it, but either way, Game 3 is where we are headed, so that's pretty sweet. Again, when we do get an update on our other match between Kurth and Jessup, Black-White Midrange versus Mono Black, we'll certainly let you guys know. That's where we'll be headed here shortly. You do see Andrew Shrout there next to Jonathan Morawski, a careful observer, as a big fan of green-white.
And Boswell, he's a good bounce back from the loss he took in Game 1, mulligan to 5. Just never got anything going. In Game 2, though, his deck looked exactly like what we kind of expected to see.
Danny Jessup did win game number 1 here over Lloyd Kurth, breaking serve as Jessup's your 4-seed, Kurth's your 1. Mono Black Devotion currently up a game over Black-White Midrange. Chances are we'll have a chance to jump over there in just a moment after this game is over. So.
Yeah, and I think we kind of expected Lloyd to maybe have a little bit of an advantage because of the white cards, but, again, Mono Black, it's because of Thoughtseize and all the discard and the World Connections, you're playing a lot of the same cards, so I think even if you have a slight edge, it's still really close.
Yeah, I think it's a close matchup. I think things get much better for Kurth after sideboard when he has access to 2 Sin Collectors, his Erebos, he has an additional Underworld connections, 2 Duresses, a Deicide, and even those 2 Blood Barons. So he's got some really nice options.
The only option that Dan has that Kurt doesn't is a Liliana Vess, which is a card that we have seen being good.
Yeah.
We have seen it be good this weekend.
Don't expect a lot of them, but the one is good.
Yeah, and it was one of the cards where I thought, wow, I liked it so much in Esper that I think that if you're playing black, I kind of like it. Like, I liked it. I thought Shields should have been playing it. I think if you're playing black, white, or even mono black, I like having one copy of Liliana Vess.
It seems like a really healthy one to have in the deck. That's what it feels like.
It's like a great top deck late in the game.
A card that you don't want to draw multiple copies of.
No.
But, I don't think you're going to sculpt a game plan around it. That's not the main goal of your deck. But when you do draw, it allows you to do some things that you couldn't do otherwise.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Vraska in Jund Monsters. It's like a one of Planeswalkers that just has a lot of utility.
Boswell waiting patiently. Morawski taking a look at his opening hand. We'll see if both players are able to keep the 7.
Boswell hoping if it's Morawski's time to mulligan to 5. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen for him. So both players are going to keep 7. We're going to see a good game here, hopefully.
Again, I feel like it's very important for Boswell to get to the board early and often, and he does have a 1-drop here in Soldier of the Pantheon. I think that's really, really important in these games.
Yeah, he's got to curve out. That's the whole key to his deck. He can't win a mid-game. He's got to curve out here.
There's a Bile-Blight to get that off the table. Again, Morawski using his instant speed removal as a sorcery because, again, Boswell does have copies of God's Willing in his sideboard. Boswell's going to play a Mana Confluence, and now here is a Voice of Resurgence. That one is important in this matchup.
Great 2-drop to have.
Morawski's going to draw a card. It's a Swamp. You see there are multiple lands in his hand. He's going to deploy a Mutavault. Now he's got a Lifebane Zombie. It will hit, as there is a Boon Satyr over there. There's also a Sunblade Elf. What it can't touch is that Planeswalker and a Johnny Call of the Pride, as well as Advent of the Worm. You also see a 3rd land there in Mana Confluence for Boswell. Yeah, so not the worst thing for Boswell. He's likely going to lose a Boon Satyr here. But he still has a follow-up next turn with a Johnny, so he can pump up his Voice of Resurgence and attack. The key thing, though, is he doesn't have an answer to Desecration Demon. Yep.
And again, that's always been a huge problem for this deck. If Morawski does play Desecration Demon on turn 4, things are going to get a little tight here for Boswell.
Let's not forget, though, you can see Morawski's hand. It actually helps because of those disgusting white-bordered lands. But he has 3 of those and then a Desecration Demon. That's it.
Yeah.
That's his hand.
So Boswell, and still, he's getting hit by Lifebane here, but not the worst thing,
All right, let's see what the boss is able to draw this turn.
A land would be good.
Smiter's not bad.
Smiter's definitely not bad.
Gonna play Mana Confluence. That's the only land in his hand. Gonna start by attacking with the Voice. Morawski, obviously no interest in blocking there. It's an unfavorable trade. And the follow will be the Smiter. He's got to take 2 to cast it.
Yeah.
But he will.
Fortunately, Boswell currently doesn't have a 4th land. He does have options, but he really wants to draw a forest or an answer to Demon.
Another Swamp is the draw for Morawski. He has not drawn particularly well this game. It looks like he's going to start by attacking with Lifebane Zombie, so he's going to get aggressive as Boswell's going to go down to 14. You have to imagine his play this turn is just land Desecration Demon.
Yeah, and I think he's fine with this. He's got 9 power in play, and Boswell's got 2 Mana Confluences, so I think he's okay with this race. And again, he knows what's in Boswell's hand.
Now, of course, Mana Confluence has helped Boswell to cast his spells, but there's a cost to playing that card, obviously, which is you take a lot of damage.
Yeah, but you have no other choice. It's like you kind of have to do it. You're never happy about it, but
this deck's got such bad mana.
The deck just has such mana. You'd much rather have like Brushland, but
oh my goodness, this deck would be busted with Brushland.
Yeah. So let's see here. What does Boswell want to do? I'm
not sure exactly what that draw was. It looks like it may have been it's either Banishing Light or a Johnny Steadfast.
Oh, it might be a God's Willing.
Yeah, it could be a God's Willing too. Yeah, that's actually what it is. It is a God's Willing here.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Boswell's thinking about attacking with everything and then God's Willing whatever gets blocked just to get a little bit of damage in. I don't love that plan, though, because you're basically just getting 2 damage in, but maybe he wants to scry. And then he can play another creature. So then he stacks his Voice of Resurgence on Morawski's turn to tap the Demon. He gets an Elemental. That'll be a 3/3 if he plays a Sunblade Elf. So he's just trying to figure out how much damage can I get in.
Here's the thing that's really difficult. If you're Boswell right now, you've got these cards in your hand, you're trying to figure out exactly how you want to sequence things. You're also trying to figure out what Morawski has in his hand. He's got 3 cards in his hand, but he has no idea that those are lands.
Exactly.
He has no clue. He's probably guessing, what do I have to play around Grey Merchant? Do I have to play around some removal spells? If he knew that he only had 3 lands in his hand, his decision might be a lot. I imagine it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Here is the caller of the Pride.
Well, the good thing for Boswell, at least, is he has the voice in play. So any spells that Morawski has are likely going to get played sorcery speed.
Yep.
So at least you don't have to worry about stuff on his turn. But, like you said, Morawski has 3 cards, and Boswell doesn't know what they are. So decided to tap out here. He doesn't have God's Willing mana up. So trying to set up a really big attack in the next few turns.
Didn't get a great look at that card. Didn't look like it was a spell there from Morawski. And it looks like for Boswell's turn, I think he's sacrificing the voice to the demon. Slow that down a little bit. We'll see what Morawski wants to do with the Lifebane zombie, of course, but it looks like that's Boswell's plan now.
If Morawski doesn't do anything crazy, Boswell could potentially jump the Smiter and attack for 10, and then he could, if he has the elemental token in play too, he could potentially attack for 13 if he plays the elf on his turn. So a lot of options here for Boswell if Johnny is able to stay in play.
Interesting draw here. It's a Thought Seize. Boswell's going to drop down the hand, show the new card that was drawn. Of course, it is God's Willing. I'm going to go along with the Sunblade Elf and the Advent of the Worm that Morawski already knew about. So now it's time to think about some things. Again, for Jonathan, he only has lands in his hand. Again, Boswell does not know that.
Yeah, and I think Boswell's okay with this because Morawski takes 2 to do this. Plus, there's really not a good take here. Like, I think Boswell would love it if he took Advent of the Worm.
It doesn't mind.
Yeah, he would love it. And but if you take the God's Willing, you still leave him with a creature that he can play next turn. And if you take the Elf, he's got a God's Willing, which again sets up his next turn because the Smiter's a 5/5 currently. If he can jump it, that drops him down to 6. So he's pretty close to lethal there with the God's Willing to push through the last damage.
Yeah, that Thought Seize, as powerful as that is, paying the 2 life certainly does matter.
So
gonna go with the Sunblade Elf, all right.
Yeah, he doesn't really have a good option. You can't take the Advent of the Worm. You got to take one of the 2. I think I might have just taken the God's Willing, to be honest, because if you kind of can see what Boswell's kind of trying to craft here.
Well, it'd be very awkward, if he Thought Seizes, doesn't take God's Willing, and loses to God's Willing, right?
Yeah,
that would be very bad.
Which is kind of what could happen, especially if Boswell draws a land. If Boswell draws a land or a creature, and he has plenty of creatures that are less than 3 mana.
Yeah.
So that can definitely be what's happening. It looks like Morawski's attacking Boswell too. So Johnny will be able to jump something this turn if that's what he wants to do.
It can jump something, but obviously Boswell has to weigh into the equation of, all right, if I jump something and you have a removal spell, then I have to cast my God's Willing. Is that the best way that I want to cast God's Willing?
Yeah.
And
it looks like Boswell did draw a land. So now I really like jumping something.
Once again, players, if you do not have an opponent at this time, please come to the main event stage.
I don't love the jump this turn. Because if he drew a land and he jumps and there's a removal spell, then then you have to cast your God's Willing to save your guy, and you can't cast Advent of the Worm.
That's true. So basically, Boswell's thinking, okay, what I need to do is I need to be able to cast Advent of the Worm this turn, and I also want to sack that token to tap the demon on his attack step. If I can do that, I'm in pretty good shape.
Presumably. I agree with you. I think he's probably in pretty good shape. And now, the other thing that Boswell may come to right now, though, is that, hey, I don't have much of a choice, and I need to jump my creature and just hope that things work out. Because, I'm under the gun, I have Manic Influences. You've made it very clear that your Lifebane zombie is going towards me, and you're trying to kill me. So he may be putting a rock in a hard place and just say, all right, jump my Smiter and, hope for the best.
Well, the problem is that if he doesn't jump the Smiter, it can get just chump blocked by Mutavault.
He needs to get damage through this turn.
I think he needs to get damage through this turn. Because then if he gets the Advent of the Worm into play, that has trample. So you're pretty good shape to win if there's just a Lifebane zombie. And you still have that God's Willing. So, I don't know. I think his best play is to jump Smiter here and just get that damage in. You got to hope for the best. Because if he has a removal spell, I think it's bad for you no matter what.
And this is obviously what makes Magic great, is because Morawski is just sitting there with 2 lands in his hand, but I'm sure he's sitting there just stone-faced.
Yeah.
Just, I dare you to do anything.
I mean, Grave Merchant is basically a bomb for him, right?
Yeah. I dare you to make a move.
I hope he jumps. I really want to see a jump here.
You gonna jump in that face?
Looks like he's just gonna pump. And
yeah.
Now he's in an awkward spot. Like if he just activates Mutavault and blocks, I think this is the problem for Boswell. Because he's
one thing that Boswell can actually do now that's actually kind of interesting is that he makes the Smite into a 6/6 maybe, or maybe he puts it on the voice. Yeah, but he can attack. He can attack with both creatures. And I expect Mutavault to probably block the Smiter, but he gets to get a bunch of damage through. Because, Voice Resurgence, even if it was a 2/2, Like he can cast Advent and make it a 3/3, so Morawski wouldn't be able to block that. So he's able to get some points of damage through.
But now he's really exposing himself to removal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he just gets blown out if there's a removal spell.
There's this. I think you do have to cast Advent the Worm now.
No, I
think
think
so?
you definitely don't cast it. Yeah.
You don't want to get that extra point of damage?
No, I think you're fine because I think the math still works out where you're probably lethal. Especially with the.
I don't know, that's
Yeah,
close. I mean, like,
it's
because
close.
you're going to like, your turn, I think you are locked into going, sacrifice my voice token, cast Advent of the Worm, no matter what happens here. So that point of damage from going down to 13 and 12 could be relevant because, actually, I think it's, it seems like it's pretty relevant at this point, putting him from 13 to 12, just because of the Ajani jump and the increments of damage that you can deal.
No, you're right.
I do understand wanting to leave up God's Willing, and again, you're in the face of mono black with a bunch of removals, so gonna sacrifice there. Desecration Demon's gonna go up to an 8/8.
So it looks like Morawski just drew another demon. So Boswell's. Yeah, I kind of like not getting the extra damage in because I think the lack of information makes it harder for Morawski. I think I'd rather sacrifice one extra point of damage for holding on to that information.
Okay.
Now Morawski doesn't know. Does he have a Selesnya charm? Does he have?
He knows his hand.
Oh, he knows about the Advent.
He knows the cards,
that's right.
yeah.
He knows he has an Advent.
So he's gonna go down to 6. Gonna play Desecration Demon. He's
Okay.
gonna pass the turn back.
So Advent's going to come down. He's going to go down to 4. He still has the God Willing. So God's Willing can make one of the creatures attack through a Desecration Demon. And then if he gives the other one double strike and trample, is that enough? If he needs a creature, if he draws a creature that's cheap, he can win. And it looks like he did. Yep, so he's going to go to 2. He's going to go to 3, rather. He's going to cast Smiter. If he casts God's Willing on one of his creatures to give it pro black, he doesn't have to.
He doesn't need to.
He just
sacrifices that and kills him, right?
Yep,
10.
that's it.
10 and 5 that's 15.
And he has God's Willing protection
Yeah.
even. So yep, that's it.
That's gonna do it. Andrew Boswell is gonna win this match over Jonathan Morawski.
The
Green-white
Boz.
aggro is gonna get the job done yet again over Mono Black Devotion, and he is moving on to the finals to play against another Black Devotion deck.
The Boz.
Well, there's a will, there's a way. He was able to get through a couple of demons and a life bane zombie there and get the job done, thanks in large part to Ajani.